today we have 4 divas and 1 aria to listen from Puccini's famous Giannis Kiki, opera Giannis Kiki. I know that you will love these sopranos. They are pretty amazing. And I also know that Nick will talk about the difference in color in their voices, their ranges, and their quality of voice. These are for the light, lyric, dramatic soprano and a mezzo soprano voice. We will start with an Italian legend, Mirella Freni. And you know, we know that Mirella Freni had like this very seamless kind of voice. You know, you would not listen to the low, medium, high register of her voice, but she was like, it was very seamless with this singer, Italian singer. So Nick, I pass it to you. O mio babino caro.
Just let's set up the aria. First of all, we wanted to do a program about sopranos, and just point out the fact that every voice is highly individual. Every voice is unique, just like every person is unique and has different qualities. The voice has different qualities. So what we call a soprano, there are going to be many varieties of color within that voice type that we call soprano. On top of that, there are lyric sopranos, coloratura sopranos, dramatic sopranos, spinto sopranos, Wagnerian soprano, Verdi sopranos. It could go on and on and on and on. And that hasn't been always so. That's a relatively new thing, separating all of these different these characteristics of sopranos. What we call the Fach system, F-A-C-H in German. Leave it to the Germans to organize everything, right? And to list everything and to stylize everything so that each soprano singing this role has to be this kind of soprano. It wasn't that way at all. And this is a wonderful case in point, is the role of Lauretta in Giannis Kiki, who gets to sing that wonderful aria. I'm sure you know, O mio babino caro. Right? Now, Lauretta is a young woman. She's in love with Renuccio, and she's begging her father, Giannis Kiki, to help scheme so that Renuccio's family gets to inherit the money and the property of the man that just died in the plot. Now, the reason we chose O mio babino caro is twofold. It is in our season next year, along with Suor Angelica, and it's short. It's only about 2.5, maybe 3 minutes tops, depending on the tempo that the soprano decides to take. But here's a really interesting thing. The very first Lauretta at the Metropolitan Opera, back in, I think it was 1910 when it premiered. Puccini did not come, but it was the world premiere of Il Trittico, including Il Tabarro, Suor Angelica, and Giannis Kiki. Those 3 operas happened in New York at the Metropolitan Opera. And the first soprano to sing the role of Lauretta was a British soprano by the name of Florence Easton. She was a Wagnerian soprano. Now think about that. She made much of her career, I mean, she sang everything. She sang Mozart, she sang Verdi, she sang Puccini, obviously. She sang Wagner, and she sang Strauss. But her farewell performance was Brünnhilde at Covent Garden with Loritz Melchior. This was a huge voice. So now typically today we think of casting a younger singer with a lyric soprano voice in the role of Lauretta because she's young and she's the daughter and on and on and on. But it wasn't always so. So the first soprano you said is Mirella Freni. Now in my mind, this is the perfect lyric soprano voice, bordering on dramatic, who could get away with singing this role. So let's listen to this.
Brava! I
Oh,
love her singing, you know?
so gorgeous. Seamless is a really good word, Andrea, that you used in introducing her. It's also creamy texture. The thing that I love about this performance is that there's no fooling around with it. She sings in tempo. She doesn't do this, which many sopranos do,
Yeah.
which I think is wrong-headed, particularly within the context of the opera. Loretta's not going to take time with this.
Yeah,
She's
she's desperate.
determined. She's gonna move ahead. And I love the way Franny treats this. She says, it's like she's saying, okay, I'm doing this in a concert, but this is a character, and this is how the character would sing this. And I'm not going to fool around with the high notes just because they're there.
I don't know if you noticed, but there was a moment that she was in her tempo, in that tempo, and the orchestra was dragging.
They didn't know where they were. Yeah,
Yes.
no, that was the
Anyway,
conductor's problem.
yes.
Also, in fact, I purposely did not choose Anna Netrebko because her orchestra in the version of this aria that we found did what this orchestra did as well. This orchestra was much better. But here is the original introduction from the score of the opera. Did you hear the dissonance? And there will probably be another excerpt that will fix it. So what you heard at the beginning of this was, and I don't understand it. It's the only aria in the repertoire that I'm aware of where when it's done in concert out of the context of the opera, it's fixed.
Yeah, they take away that note
They
that
take away that wonderful,
that becomes the friction.
and she's upset. She's pleading with him. We need to hear that. And somebody's decided, oh no, that's too much for the audience. Let's fix it.
Yeah, I don't like this when they say, oh, it's too much for the audience. The audience can understand everything.
And it's Puccini. He was a 20th century composer. He
Correct.
used bitonality. He used dissonances all the time. This should not be surprising. And people fix it. It just makes me crazy.
Crazy. Crazy too. Okay, so let's go now. Our next diva, it's Greek soprano Maria Callas. Of course, she was born in America, but somehow I have her in my head as a Greek soprano. You know, I don't know if that happens to you guys too.
And I saw some faces go, oh.
So some say that she had 3 different voices in one, and others say that she lacked technique. What we do know of this singer is her expressivity. You know, there was no shortage of that. And she gave this emotional meaning and complexity to each one of the characters that she was singing. Um, she has a very, very dark register in the low register. And then in the middle register, it seems to me that it's a little bit bottled. So I'll let Nick talk about this. There's also people that call her the soprano assoluta, meaning the absolute soprano. So I will pass it to you, Nick. I do love her interpretations, though.
Yeah, I come from a biased standpoint because my first recording of Tosca was Callas's recording of Tosca, but it was not the classic 1955 recording, which everyone considers one of the great recordings of the century. The one I mistakenly got was the one from the late 60s, and her voice was just all over the map. But so gripping, so exciting. It just drew me into the story in a way that I don't think I would have been drawn in by any other performance. So I've always loved the way she, as you say, is so expressive and so dramatic. I don't know another soprano who is as good with text as Callas is. She really studied the words. She really studied the text. She knew exactly who this character was and what this character was singing. So even though this is also another concert performance, she is giving us Lauretta, which I think is really lovely. Yes, it is the Callas voice, that graininess that I feel particularly here in the middle is a little gritty. But let's see what you think.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't have the perfect voice, but she has this expression, and you can feel the naivete of the character.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I was noticing when she came to um, oh, oh Dio, oh God, I want to die. More, more, and a little sob, morir. But it just made the whole aria for me. And it wasn't too much. She judges things, I think, so carefully and so well. She's got taste. She's got taste, which I love
No,
about
I think so. And in one recording of La Traviata, when she's going to die, the character's gonna, she's choking when she's singing. You can hear that she's out of breath, like she's like choking to death.
her.
It's
Yeah,
amazing. The
yeah,
interpretation is pretty amazing.
it's really incredible. I'm sorry I forgot to turn my phone off and I just got a ding, so I'm turning everything off. Hang on, I want to make
Okay.
sure that's all.
While you do that, I will talk about our third guest to do
Yes.
today, American soprano Kathleen Battle. A beautiful high register, light soprano, for me, coloratura, I would say, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. And a very difficult personality as well. She was dismissed from the Met in 1994, but oh my God, what a singer! You know, I had the privilege to be in a choir singing a coronation mass of Mozart many years ago in Mexico. I was a student, and she was a soloist, and I just could not forget this timbre, this quality of that voice.
I have a personal story about Kathleen Battle. It didn't happen to me. I've never met her, never worked with her, but we certainly know of her reputation as being very, very difficult backstage. But I worked with a choir master and organist who was her choir master and organist when she was a kid in high school.
Uh-huh.
And he swears that the voice didn't change from high school to adulthood, that she had that gift from earliest age, that the voice was that polished and that beautiful and that mature even as a kid, which is really extraordinary. Now, this is the voice that I would typically think of as a Lauretta, because as you say, the color, it lies high. It feels lighter and brighter. So it sounds like a young woman. So it would fit the role better to my ear. But let's see what everybody else thinks. Let's listen to it. Yeah, the color to my ear is just right for the role. Um, but again, like Florence Easton, you know, you think of the first Lauretta was a dramatic soprano, a Wagnerian, and here on the other end of the spectrum is this much lighter voice that lies higher and has almost colorless, ethereal sound in those
Yeah,
upper notes when
but yeah.
she floats those head tones. It's so beautiful. There's a question from Susan Spato, asked about how this aria is set in this comedy. Well, quite frankly, I mean, have you seen Johnny Skiki? It stops the show dead. It stops it absolutely dead, uh, which is fine. I mean, if you're going to have a showstopper, it might as well be this aria because it is so gorgeous and the payoff is great. And in fact, at the very first performance at the Met, Florence Easton was an encore was demanded by the audience. But it is strange. I mean, it's frankly the only serious dramatic moment in the entire piece because the opera is absolutely hysterical. It is one of the
Yes.
funniest things that you'll ever see. And she just, you know, it's so Italian. I mean, she just loses it and bows down and gets on her knees to her father. Oh, Daddy, please help these people get the inheritance so that I can marry my beloved Rinuccio. If you don't, I'll throw myself off the Arno into the Arno River off the bridge. And oh, you know, she just gets overly emotional, and it stops the show. But that's okay. I mean, it picks up immediately. Skiki agrees, and off we go with the rest of the plot. And so, but yeah, I mean, it does stop the show absolutely dead on its heels. It's hysterical. Did you notice again? Somebody fixed the orchestra.
I noticed that the like also the dragging of the conductor again. But what I noticed with her voice, when she has to emit an e, she puts the e in an o kind of position
Yes.
in the mouth, so it's really rounded. This
Yeah.
e, instead of being e, it's like e.
E.
But it's beautiful the way she does it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Another
so
thing, by the way, and I wish I'd known that it existed before we chose the artists. But Florence Easton did record this aria, and you can find the original singer that sang the first Lauretta on YouTube. So search for Florence Easton, Easton, O mio babbino caro. You can find it. Her Italian is horrible. Her
oh
Italian
really?
is absolutely awful. But uh, listen to a few other renditions of this aria and notice where Florence Easton breathes. Completely different from everybody else. It's a completely different approach that I find very interesting and refreshing. It's really interesting to hear the very first Lauretta do a recording. It was the same year as the premiere. So
Well, thank you for letting us know. Certainly I will look for it.
yeah.
Our last guest today is the Latvian mezzo-soprano Elina Garancha. And for me, she seems like a cat. And but in terms of music, she's like super articulated, precise, like super precise singer and very grounded. So you will see it. I don't know if you agree with me, but you can let me know.
Of these four singers, she's the one that I know the least. But I yeah, and I heard it and I thought, oh, that's really quite lovely. I was really delighted by the color of the
Yeah,
voice. But let's just listen to it and comment on the other side.
sure.
O mio bambino,
Now, to my ear, there's a silvery quality to that voice, almost metallic, shiny. It's so
Yeah.
strange to use words like that when talking about a voice, but a silvery quality to the voice that I like. I think it's really beautiful. I think she held the high note at the end too long, and she's not as careful as you say with her pronunciation.
Yeah,
I
well,
noticed,
she
I
like,
noticed right away she sang "O mia babino caro," not "O mio." It's an O. "O mio babino caro." She was very careless. It was "O mia babino caro."
I don't
So
know if you have seen her on stage.
no, never.
She's a beast, a beast. She's incredible.
Wow.
Like really grabs your heart.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, I just like, pretty amazing.
Well, that's what we want, right? So those are four very different colors of voice singing the same aria. I think it's a really interesting exercise. It's actually one of the things that uh, we used to do in undergrad in music school is just get together and listen to the same aria by different artists. I note that we do have time for one more, and that's the Renee Fleming. I wanted to save that. If we had time for it, great. If we didn't have time for it, fine. Um, can we do this without comment and talk about it on the other side? I want to see what people, I want to watch people's faces. I see Stephen was making his feelings known about it. That just makes me crazy. She has the most gorgeous voice in the world. But when she sings this aria, she's out of control. Every high note is held for as long as she can hold it. The piece is completely out of context of who this character is. And I don't care if you're going to sing an aria in concert, you're still the character. You're still Lauretta. Now, I heard her do this live with piano in Escondido a number of years back. She did it as an encore, and I was just fit to be tied. I was just like this, like, oh my God, move it, lady, move it along. Quit holding every note, for as long as you can. And and you can't argue too much because the voice is so juicy and so creamy and so beautiful. But oh my God, you feel like she'll never get through it.
Yeah, I think for me, like this elongation, not only of the high note, but whichever note, she's like, there's this like bubble gum kind of thing,
Yeah,
and then the aria loses the structure.
yeah. I just don't think. She's singing it as an encore. She's treating it as an encore
Okay.
to show off the voice, and she's not the character. If she were to sing it that way, and I were the stage director or the artistic director of the house, I'd fire her. No, not really. But it's really that bothers me a little bit. I don't stretch the music out of its confines.
Yeah, yeah.
You said I see a note. We've got the Florence Easton queued
Yes.
up.
Would you like to, yeah? We
Shall we
should do it.
try it? Let's see if we can hear it.
Okay.
This is the original Lauretta. Now, she's the only singer who sings the end of the aria exactly the way it's written. Babbo pieta, pieta. And then she holds that note, not the high note, not pieta. No, pieta. And holds it forever, which is exactly what's in the score. There's a fermata over the last note of the phrase, not the top note, not the high note, not the money note, but the last note, the lower note, which I think is fascinating.
We're gonna go to questions and answers, but before we do the questions and answers, Just want to say this. Some of you have asked me about ways to help the company right now. And you can help us by renewing your membership, by giving us an extra gift, or including us in your will or trust, or living your legacy to San Diego Opera.